My name is Jan Smith, and I'm the Executive Director of SOMOS. Well, good evening and welcome to the 33rd finale of the SOMOS Summer Writer Series. And each series I like to feature some local writers, and tonight's our night. Before I introduce them though, I just have a couple of announcements. First, I'd like to thank House Onstage for being a sponsor for this evening's program. First, I'm going to introduce to you Ed Cárdenas. Many of you know him as the beloved author of the Lovito series. It's a book for children about character building and life skills. He also has CDs that go with them, and we've been featuring Ed's children's books over on our local authors table for quite a while now. They sell like hotcakes, Ed. But he just recently came out with a young adult novel titled El Legado, and I understand that he has a new version with an endorsement from Rodolfo Anaya. Very impressive, and after I read it, I can totally see why Rodolfo would have endorsed it. It is a story that honors a family and cultural roots based here in Penasco. The story traces the protagonist, Antonio, his disconnect from the Spanish language as he was growing up, and his rediscovery of it and his cultural background by going to the annual celebration of the planting of the beans in the bean fields in Penasco. And the stories, I don't know how to pronounce it, Ed will help me, is it dicho? Dicho? The dichos that his great-grandfather taught him and other members of his family. And through his journey as a teenager and a young man, he goes back to his roots and discovers El Legado, the legacy that his parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents left behind. So let's give a very warm welcome to Ed Cárdenas.
Thank you very much. Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.
I hope you're all having a great evening. I expect to have a lot of fun and a good evening. Thank you all for being here. I also want to thank SOMOS for the support and for sponsoring this program. I think we should give SOMOS a big hand. I'm here not just to honor our Hispano people, but all peoples. So let's give everybody a hand. There are many people I could mention. Oops, sorry about that. But there are a lot of people that actually contributed. So I'll try to mention those that might be here. Enrico Trujillo, who worked on our cover, he and my granddaughter. And he's the one that's operating the camera right here. And Dr. Kate O'Neill, who was a director of UNM. She was very supportive, certainly Louis Moya. And this work would have never happened without Rebecca Lanzini. So let's give Rebecca a big hand. And I don't see David Perez here, but he was sure a big part of it. And certainly, as was mentioned, Rodolfo Anaya. Rodolfo helped me when I started on this work about 16 years ago. He tried to give me some guidance, and 16 years later, I finally told him, well, it's done. So I sent him a copy, and he answered me back, and he said, I'll endorse this. So what is Legado? What is El Legado? It's a story of love and family, of land and roots, about the importance of cultural heritage in discovering the road to healing. El cuento a story about a young man named Antonio, who discovers his cultural roots through relentless dedication to learn the Spanish language, to make connection to the wisdom of his great-grandfather. Once he learns the language, he finds answers to life issues as to how to cope with cultural, or how to cope within the culture, how to cope with issues like grief and loss and anger. And as a social worker, this is one of the things that I've seen so much of, and I don't have to preach to the choir, so much going on in our world, not just with teenagers, but if there are two things that stand out in our time, the pain, the grief, and anger problems, which is a normal reaction. But many times people don't know how to react to loss. Anyway, Antonio takes pride in his Hispano culture as it expands his world. I recently was reading an article from the Associated Press from Mark Sanchez. I don't know how many of you follow the Broncos. I'm certainly a Bronco fan. I lived in Denver many years. And I know Rebecca lived in Colorado too, so I know she's a Bronco fan. Anyway, he didn't know Spanish. He was raised with Hispanic parents, and they spoke Spanish only to themselves, but they never spoke it to Mark. So recently there was this article where after he was drafted by the Jets, he had to learn Spanish because he only knew how to say gracias. But in this article, the Associated Press interviewed him, and they interviewed him in Spanish and in English, and he did great. So it's never too late. And the Legado is also about pushing our young people to learn. It's never too late. It's never too late. The Legado main characters are, of course, Abuelito, who is actually a great-grandfather, who should be called bisabuelo, but everybody calls him Abuelito. And then there's Antonio. He is a great-grandson who starts his traditional cultural journey at the age of 8. And Tio Manuel, Antonio's great-uncle, who guides him to healing. There's a lot I would like to share with you, but I'm gonna read to you a few pages. But first, let me tell you about the foundation of this story. It happened about 30 years ago. I was living in Albuquerque, and my father was also living there. And one Saturday morning, I woke up with the urge to resurrect the bean field that my grandfather had started about 100 years ago. And he used to plant it in a traditional way. And so I went to my father's house to tell him what I wanted to do, that I wanted to resurrect this bean field. And before I sat down, he told me, "Son, I've been thinking about resurrecting that field." Wow, coincidence? I don't know. But anyway, since then, we've been planting it every year that we can, and we plant it in a very traditional way. But there's not only planting, but there are traditional things that go on. We enjoy traditional foods, we enjoy dance, we enjoy song, and we enjoy cuentos, storytelling. When Antonio was 8 years old, it was his first time of his participation in this traditional activity, but he formed a very close bond with Abuelito. And Abuelito told him, "Mijito, my dear son, I will always be here for you, because love is forever." So the years passed. By that time, Abuelito has died, and Antonio is a 16-year-old who's going through turmoil. He has broken up with his first love, a beautiful girl named Monica, and as a lot of teenagers, he had difficulty dealing with his anger, which is actually a normal reaction. It just needs to be expressed the right way. But it's unfortunate that a lot of, especially our young men, I've had to go work with families where a young man has broken up with his girlfriend and his only answer was to hang himself. Well, Antonio didn't go to that extreme, but he became very aggressive. He got into a lot of fights. He even got into a fight with his childhood friend, and he got so angry at the football field that he broke his helmet. He was thrown off the team. Anyway, what happens is that he starts to have this dream where Abuelito is repeating the same words, mijito, I love you, and love is forever. If you ever need me, I am here for you. So he kept having this dream. So then he decided that he needed to go back to that field, and so he does that. And when he does that, one of the things that happens is that he has a flashback, and he sees Abuelito and the grandchildren around him, and Abuelito's carrying around this black book called El Libro de Dichos, from where he told stories to the children and he taught him life's lessons. So he knows that that's the connection to his grandfather. So he has a hard time finding the book, but he finally finds it. And he's all excited before he opens it, but when he opens it, it's all in Spanish. Antonio is not fluent. So he decides to go back to Denver, and he immerses himself for 2 years to learn the language, sort of like Mark Sanchez has done. And he returns back in 2 years, and when he returns, he opens a book, and that's what I'm going to read to you from. The morning sun's rays warmed my face. I wrapped a red bandana around my neck and rolled up my shirt sleeves. My worn jeans felt bare against a flat rock. I opened the book and began my lessons. The first page had a letter from Abuelito. It was written in both Spanish and English, and it read like this: My esteemed grandchild, with honor and respect I greet you. Thank you very much for having been part of my life, for the good times we enjoyed, for the love, the respect, and strength you gave me. Also, thank you very much for being the unique person you are, a creation of the Creator, important and worth more than all the gold in the world. Because you are a person of so much worth, I want to share with you these proverbs and humble messages that come from the bottom of my heart. I share things that I have learned from life's experiences, study and counsel from my ancestors. What is written here, I leave you with the end results being that it will help you live a healthier life. Health is worth more than money. You are worth it, mijito, and you deserve the best. Con todo mi amor, with all my love, Abuelito. I let out a cry of triumph and waved the 2 letters in the air. Hey, Abuelito, check this out, man. I continued to read. El Libro de Dichos contained many good topics, and I flipped through the pages. I was especially drawn to the sections on consejo, counsel, and pérdida y dolor, grief and loss. One good consejo, it was explained, may determine the route of one's life. All one needed to do was listen. The chapter on grief and loss emphasized the importance of accepting and expressing feelings to regain one's balance and health. Para poder progresar, hay que aceptar. To have progress, one must accept. Para que sane el corazón, se tiene que expresar el dolor. For the heart to heal, pain must be expressed. What did I have to express? And where did my pain come from anyway? Losing Monica? Without warning, my anger rose as he was hiding just under my skin. Seconds later, I heard an engine in a distance, in the mountains, Noise is keen and travels far. I thought, he must be a truck from the BLM. I knew I locked the gate at the property right after I came in last night. The noise got louder. Was it the poachers who often stole wood from the property? As the vehicle got closer, I was relieved to see that it was Jumpy. Abuelito's faded blue 57 Chevy pickup with a flatbed. The grandchildren named it Jumpy because of its rough ride, like an amusement park ride. In addition to carrying garden tools, machinery, and wood, Jumpy was also used for joyriding. I had learned to drive in Jumpy on those mountain dirt roads when I was only 12. I could see the driver's straw hat, like the one Abuelito used to wear. Is this another flashback? Or have I eaten too many burritos? The driver parked about 50 yards away from where I stood, opened the truck door and got out. Carrying an axe in one hand and his staff in the other, he slowly inched his way towards a big dry piñon tree. And he walks just like Abuelito too. What on earth is going on here? I took out my binoculars and laughed. It was Tio Manuel, my Uncle Manuel. For a moment there, I thought Abuelito had come back from the dead. But my uncle sure resembled him, right down to the straw hat and red handkerchief around his neck. He looked older now too. Hey, Tio, I yelled. He jumped. Hey, Antonio, you scared me. I came up to check the bean field and caught a load of leña. I didn't expect to see anyone up here. I went to my uncle and gave him a big abrazo, a big hug. Good to see you, Tio. When did you get here, mijito? Last night. How is everyone in Denver? Oh, they're all fine, thank you. What brings you here, Antonio? Well, it's a long journey, Tio. I came to visit Abuelito's spirit. You came to visit Abuelito's spirit? I proceeded to tell Tio Manuel everything. My dreams and troubles, my quest to find the libro de dichos in Abuelito's house, and how he drove me to become fluent in Spanish. Then I felt compelled to read the book at the altar rock because it meant something to connect with Abuelito's spirit. How my grandfather and how my great-grandfather had written a letter directly to me. Que bueno, Antonio, Tio Manuel said. That is good. Te admiro. But why do you look so sad? Well, at first I cried. I was so happy that I cried. I read about consejo, and that was pretty clear. But then when I got to the topic of grief and loss, I felt an emptiness in my chest. And then I became angry. And he was like, why do I still get angry so quickly? Maybe I'm making too much up about this. Maybe the anger is deeper, Tio Manuel said. Maybe it comes from somewhere else. You're the social worker, Tio. You tell me. Tio Manuel said, well, tell me about the day you found the libro de dichos in my father's house. I felt like I discovered the Holy Grail. I know that sounds silly, but I had searched the house from top to bottom twice. Then I kicked this empty box, and it turned out to have the book, plus 2 other books and a Spanish dictionary. So you were happy? Yeah. But when I opened it, I became frustrated and angry because it was all written in Spanish. I was like, this is unfair. I blamed Grandpa for not teaching my mother Spanish so she could have taught me. But then Grandpa explained why. I stopped pacing and sat down. My uncle took my hand and looked me directly in the eye. Listen, Antonio, I want to try something. I want you to revisit the scene where you found the libro de dichos. I want you to try and go there. Is this like hypnosis? You could say that. Will it be scary? Maybe, but don't be afraid. I will be with you. So will Abuelito, our ancestors, nature and the Creator? I told him I was ready. You must first relax more, Antonio. Make your body comfortable. I stretched out my legs and arms and rested my body on the warm rock. Good. Now close your eyes and take a slow, deep breath through your nose. Hold it for 5 seconds and then exhale slowly through your mouth for 5 more seconds. Feel the tension leaving your body as you exhale. I performed the exercise 7 times. I felt really relaxed. All my senses were heightened as if nature herself had become magnified, richly alive, protective. I feel relaxed now, I said. Tio Manuel said, now I want you to remember the scene just before you open the Libro de Dichos. I want you to go back and see yourself there. Okay, Tio, I'm there. What do you see yourself doing? I'm cleaning off a very dusty book. It's a Libro de Dichos. What is the expression on your face? A big smile, I responded. What happened when you opened the book? I'm shocked that the letters are familiar, but the words are not. It is written in Spanish. I feel angry, really angry. Here's this book that was calling to me in my dreams, and I can't even understand it. It's my connection to my abuelito. I've been shortchanged. Antonio, it's okay. I am with you. We are going to return to the present. Let's breathe some more. Good. 1, 2, 3. You are now in the present. I shook my head. That was deep. Still angry? Not so much anymore. But what I feel is deep hurt. Wow, so you think this is the real reason I've been so short-fused or short-tempered lately? It makes sense. It goes to the root. But Antonio, listen to me. You have every right to have felt angry and hurt. You just made me realize the impact of your cultural loss. This is something that my generation has not been totally aware of. Listen, let's just sit and be quiet for a while. In fact, let's both silently call once more on the Creator, nature, and our ancestors to help us. After our prayer, a thick dark cloud covered the eastern mountains, followed by a loud thunder. Lightning hit a huge branch of a piñón tree and ripped it off its trunk. A strong wind hit the trees and the surroundings with such force that it bent the branches, but somehow they withstood its power. My uncle and I actually felt the altar rock tremble under our feet. Then, just as quickly as it started, it stopped. A long silence was followed by a soft drizzle of rain. Birds chirped tweets as a gentle swishing sound moved the needles of the piñón trees. We asked for nature's help, and it has joined us, my uncle said. But I was only half listening. In a semi-trance, I saw people, young and old, dressed in different attire. Somehow I knew that they represented diverse cultural dress styles from different time periods. They spoke in different languages, but amazingly, I understood them all. They all said the same thing. Antonio, we are here for you. You are not alone. The vision faded as I heard the distant yet familiar sound of Abuelito's footsteps approaching the altar rock. Then he was right there next to me, wearing his overalls, looking at me with his playful brown eyes. I yelled, Abuelito, I have found you. You promised you would be there for me, and here you are. Thank you, God. The spell broke. I looked around in amazement. Tio Manuel was grinning from ear to ear. Was that real? I asked. That's for you to decide, Tio Manuel said. Tell me what you saw. I described the vision and how wild it was that I knew exactly what he meant, and how Abuelito appeared as if to confirm the spirit world. Tio Manuel nodded his head. It's all about grief and loss, Antonio. This is the message. Unfortunately, so many people have lost their culture and language. Culture is transmitted from generation to generation through the language. You take away the language, and they say in 5 generations, that culture is lost. It's happening to our raza. It's like we have become foreigners in our own land. The very sad thing is the emotional, generational pain of our losses has not been fully acknowledged and therefore not resolved. Time does not heal. That is a myth. Tio Manuel looked intently at Antonio, his eyes filled with love and compassion. I blinked. Tio's eyes looked exactly like Abuelito's. The gaze exactly the way it appeared in my vision. I blinked again, and it was my uncle. He got up and gave me a strong abrazo. Don't forget to translate Abuelito's messages. You have a mission now for your generation. Guarda tu cultura en tu corazón. Keep your culture in your heart. See, I can translate already. I must go, Tio Manuel said. I am now content. I am tired. I must go rest. We hugged again. With a tear running down his cheek, he said, Consejo de abuelito, guárdalo bien, mijito. Counsel of grandfather, keep in your heart, my grandson. And with that, he walked away slowly. At the tree near his truck, he grabbed the staff and walked west toward Jumpy. Magnificent blue skies were a backdrop to his dark silhouette against the orange sun setting. He held his staff in his right hand, and he pushed firmly into the ground with each step before getting into the truck. He turned and waved and pointed to heaven with the staff. Con Dios, he said, as he climbed into the front seat and drove away. I realized that I still had Tio Manuel's handkerchief. Wait, I yelled. My uncle was gone. Just then I felt a strange shaking coming from the handkerchief. I unfurled it. Inscribed were the words written by Abuelito. I recognized the handwriting from the lettering inside the libro de dichos. This note was dated today and addressed to me. I freaked out and felt my hair stand up. The words read, You did great work today, mijito. Be sure to ask for consejo from your Tio Manuel. Today he is in Denver, and he is also very wise. I will be with you forever. That's all I'm going to share about the story. I want to share a song that I wrote that goes with the story. You have a copy of it in English. I will play it in Spanish, but before I do that, I want to say that in our community, in our world, and especially in Taos, because we can have control of what happens in our community. We need community awareness of the effects of cultural loss to include the beliefs and practice of virtues like respect. We need programs to deal with the loss of culture and language and other losses to promote healing. We need to educate the community in the value of all languages, all of your languages. You all have languages that you inherited. Maybe you haven't been practicing them, but it would be beautiful to bring this back. I would like to see Taos become an international language center, wouldn't you? Well, why not? Where we could enjoy and respect each other's culture and gain from it. There's just so much wealth there. I believe there's a need for young people to have pride in their ethnic language and value the benefits. El que lengua sabe dos, vale por dos. he who knows 2 languages is worth twice as much. For all of us to listen to the grandfather's emphasis on the language of the heart. You might want to try and sing this, the play. You have the English copy there?
Yes.
La senda que caminas ya se ha caminado, nada es nuevo, ya todo ha pasado. Mucho hemos aprendido de los antepasados por las experiencias que el mundo les ha dado. Escucha bien, mijito, cuando se da el consejo compartido por dichos que pueden ser provecho. Se dan con gran cariño, son evangelitos, consejo de abuelito, guárdalo bien, mijito. Keep your culture in your heart, mijito. Share it with others, with your children and your grandchildren. Dime con quién andas y te diré quién eres. Ten esto presente donde quiera que tú fueres. La espiritualidad es fuente de la vida. Acuérdate de Dios de noche y de día. Escucha bien, mijito, cuando se da el consejo compartido por dichos que pueden ser provecho. Se dan con gran cariño, son evangelitos, consejo de abuelito, guárdalo bien, mijito.
Bueno.
Thank you very much. I brought a few copies and they're free of the song. For those that buy the first book, so you'll get a copy. Thank you, and may God bless you.
Well, thank you, Ed. That was such a profound, positive message and very uplifting. And I want to especially commend you for I was a social worker for 30 years, so I know what it's like to be a social worker, and for your dedication to helping children and teens and us, all of us, in respecting these values and remembering them.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.